Hi, I'm Andrew Stellman, author of Head for C#, the popular book on learning C# published by O'Reilly Media. And welcome to the walkthrough of the first project in the Visual Studio for Mac Learners Guide, where you'll use ASP.NET Blazor to build an animal matching game. Most of the projects in our book are .NET Core Console apps, which work on both Windows and Mac, but some chapters have a project, like the Animal Matching Game in Chapter 1, that are Windows projects. And for those, if you're a Mac reader, you'll flip to the Visual Studio for Mac Learners Guide at the end of the book. Your Animal Matching Game will be a Blazor WebAssembly app. Blazor lets you create rich web applications that can run in any modern browser. Most of the chapters in this book will feature a Blazor app. You'll build your game in a series of steps. You'll create the project, shuffle the animals, handle mouse clicks, detect when the player wins, and add a game timer. In this first step, you'll create a new Blazor WebAssembly app project in Visual Studio. You'll choose File, New Solution from the menu to bring up the new project window. The IDE will give you a page with options. Leave the options set to the default values, click Next. Enter Blazor Match Game as the name of your project, and the IDE will create a new Blazor Match Game project and show you its contents. Once the Visual Studio IDE is done creating the project, it'll show you its contents. Expand the Pages folder in the Solution window to view its contents, then double-click the index.razor file to open it in an editor. Now that you've created your Blazor web app, you can run it in a browser. When you run a Blazor web app, there are two parts, a server and a web application. Visual Studio launches them both with one button. You can click the Run button to start your application, or choose Start Debugging from the Run menu. The IDE will first open a Build Output window at the bottom, then an Application Output window, and after that, it will pop up a browser running your app. The app that gets run should match the screenshot in the book. Make sure you run your web apps in Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome. There are instructions in the book to make sure you're using the right browser. Compare the code in index.razor with what you see in your browser. The web app has two parts, a navigation menu on the left side with links to different pages, and a page displayed on the right side. Compare the contents of that page with the HTML markup, which we also show you in the book. Change the third line of the index.razor file so it says something else. In our case, we made it say, "Elementary, my dear Watson." Click the Stop button, or choose Stop from the Run menu. Now start your app again, then reload your page in the browser. When it loads, you'll see the updated text. Now you're ready to start writing code for your game. We'll flip ahead to the page that says Visual Studio helps you write C# code. You'll start by adding an @code block to the end of your index.razor file. Keep the existing contents of the file there for now. You'll delete them later. Inside that @code block, between those opening and closing curly brackets, you'll start writing a line of code. The IntelliSense window in the IDE will pop up and help you write your C# code by suggesting useful autocomplete options. The code that you're writing will store a list of animal emoji that'll be used in the game. Now you'll finish that statement. Type an opening parenthesis. The IDE will fill in the closing one. Press the right arrow to move past the parenthesis, and type an opening curly bracket. Again, the IDE will fill in the closing one. Press Enter to add a line between the brackets and add a semicolon after the closing brackets. Congratulations, you've created your first C# statement. It should match what you see in the book. Enter a quote on the blank line. The IDE will add the closing quote. Now you'll use the character viewer to enter the emoji. Choose Edit Emoji and Symbols, or Control-Command-Space from the menu to bring up the macOS character viewer. Position your cursor between the quotes, then go to the character viewer and search for dog. You can use the search box to do it. Make sure your code matches what you see in the book. Then repeat the same process to add another dog emoji. Keep going to add 7 more pairs of emoji to your list. Make sure that the quotes and commas match the book exactly. If they don't match exactly, the game won't work and your program won't run. Right now, your page still shows that Hello World app where you replaced the text Hello World with something else. So now you're going to replace the contents of the page. Delete the 3 lines from the top of the page, just underneath the @page line. Then, place your cursor on the 3rd line, type open:*st. The IDE will pop up an IntelliSense window. Choose Style to add opening and closing style tags. Put your cursor between the open and closing style tags, press Enter, and carefully enter all of the code in the book. Make sure your code in your app matches the book exactly. After you've added the style, go to the next line after the closing style tag and use the IntelliSense to enter an opening and closing div tag, just like you did with the style tag earlier. Then carefully enter the code in the book, again, making sure it matches exactly. If you've worked with HTML before, you may notice that the @foreach and @animal don't look like ordinary HTML. That's Blazor, C# code embedded directly into the HTML. We're done adding the code that adds the animals to the page. Carefully compare the code in the book to the code in Visual Studio. Even 1 character difference could make your code break, and you'll learn a lot more about exactly why that happens and how to prevent it over the course of the entire book. When you're ready, press the Run button to run your app again. When the browser pops up, you'll see your pairs of animals displayed in a grid. Each of the animals is a button. Hover over them so you can see that the button changes. You can even click the buttons, though they don't do anything yet. Compare your page to the screenshot in the book and make sure everything looks correct before you move on to the next part. When you're ready to go on, press the Stop button to stop your app. Our match game would be too easy if the pairs of animals were all next to each other, so let's add some C# code to shuffle the animals so they appear in a different order each time the player loads the page. First, place your cursor just after the semicolon above the closing bracket near the bottom of the index.razor file and press enter twice. You're going to enter a line of code just like you did before. And you'll follow the instructions in the book to carefully add more lines of code. You're going to add a method called SetUpGame, and you'll learn a lot more about what methods are and how they work in Chapter 2. Now you'll modify your Blazor code to call your new SetUpGame method. Scroll back up to the HTML and find the code @forEach var animal in animal emoji. Double-click animal emoji to select it, then type S. The IDE will pop up an IntelliSense window. Change it to Shuffled Animals, and now run your app again. Your animals should be shuffled so they're in a random order. Reload the page in the browser. They'll be shuffled in a different order every time you reload. Now we'll skip ahead to the book, past the exercise and some additional pages, to the part where we add C# code to handle mouse clicks. When you click any of the buttons in your game, that button has to do something, and the way it works is it will call a special method called an event handler. An event handler is C# code that gets executed anytime a specific event happens, like a mouse click. We're going to give you code for the event handler. Your job is to copy it exactly. Notice that there are some lines that start with 2 slashes. Those are comments. They don't do anything. They're just there to make the code easier to understand. And we included them to help you read the code more easily. Again, absolutely everything you're going to do right now, you'll go into a lot more detail later in the book, and you'll really fully understand everything by the time you've gotten through the next few chapters. you've added your event handler and carefully compared it against the code in the book to make sure it matches, test it. Run your app again. When it comes up, test the event handler by clicking on a button, then clicking on the button with a matching emoji. They should both disappear. Next, click on another, and then another, and then another. You should be able to keep clicking on pairs until all the buttons are blank. Congratulations, you found all the pairs. Now, while you're testing your event handler, here's a bit of a spoiler. There's actually a bug in this code. Can you find it? It looks like your event handler is working, but there's a problem. What if you click on the same button twice? Reload your page in the browser to reset it, but this time, instead of finding a pair, click twice on the same button. Uh-oh, there's a bug in the game. It should have ignored that second click, but instead it acted like you got a match. Understanding a bug is the first step in fixing it. Luckily, the Visual Studio Debugger is a great tool for that. In fact, that's why it's called a debugger. It's a tool that helps you get rid of bugs. We're going to follow the instructions in the book carefully to use the debugger to analyze and understand what caused the bug. Now it's time to put on our Sherlock Holmes caps and sleuth out the problem. We've gathered a lot of evidence, and now we're going to use that evidence to figure out exactly what's going on and fix the bug. Let's follow along in the book as we make the changes to the button click event handler to fix the bug. Now carefully compare all of the code that you entered to fix the bug with the code in the book, and then run the game again. Test out your double click. This time, when you double click an animal, it shouldn't find the match because the button click event handler can differentiate between two buttons with the same animal now. Congratulations, your bug is fixed. Skip ahead a few pages in the book to the next part of the project. The game is coming along pretty well. Your player starts out with a grid full of animals to match, and they can click on pairs of animals that disappear when they're matched. But what happens when all the matches are found? We need a way to reset the game so that the player gets another chance. In the book, we give you a pencil and paper exercise where you figure out where to put 4 blocks of code in your game to make it reset when the player finds all the matches. In this walkthrough, we'll show you what it looks like to add that code in the solution to your project. Carefully compare your code with the solution in the book. And once you're satisfied, run your app. When the app comes up, click pairs of animals until they're all gone. As soon as you click the last pair, the game should now reset itself. When you're done testing and you're satisfied that it's working, quit your browser and stop the app in Visual Studio. Your animal matching game will be more exciting if players can try to beat their best time. We'll add a timer that ticks after a fixed interval by repeatedly calling a method. Let's follow along with the book to add a timer to your game's code. Carefully compare the code in your app with the code in your book. It's really easy to accidentally leave out a semicolon or parentheses or bracket. Once you're satisfied, run your app. As soon as you click your first animal, you'll see the timer start counting up. See if you can beat your best time. Your game is working. Congratulations! But did you notice there are other pages in your app? Try clicking on Counter or Fetch Data in the navigation menu on the left side. When you created the Blazor WebAssembly App project, Visual Studio added these sample pages. You can safely remove them. Once you're done cleaning up the navigation menu, run your app again. Your game should pop up, and this time you won't see those additional pages in the side navigation bar. Congratulations! You've now built the Blazor WebAssembly Animal Matching Game from Head First C#. Thank you so much for following along, and we really hope you get a lot out of our book, Head First C#, the fast and fun way to learn C#, published by O'Reilly Media. Visit our GitHub page for more information about the book.